Were you drafted or did you enlist in the Army?
I did both.
Okay. How were you drafted?
Well, I was drafted normally, and while I was in basic training, the first week of basic training, I enlisted for 3 years instead of the 2 years that I was drafted.
Okay, what made you want to go further than the 2 years?
Well, they offered me a chance to go into some area specific to my interest rather than just as a draftee, and so I chose to go into supply, missile repair parts supply. And that was I was going to be sent to Fort Lee, Virginia for that training before I was deployed anyplace else.
Okay, why did you pick that particular position?
To tell you the truth, they were pulling Hawk missiles out of Vietnam, and they seemed to think that going into supply, missile repair parts supply, that I had a chance that I wouldn't go to Vietnam.
Okay, so you did that to avoid Vietnam.
Hopefully. I believe that God had a hand in that too, though.
There you go. Where were you when you were living at home? Where were you
I was
living?
married, living in St. Louis. Had been married for 3 years, but we had no children, and so I was eligible for the draft as a result of not having any children.
Okay. Did you recall your first days in the service?
Yeah, they were rather hectic, a lot of hurry up and wait, herding like cattle from one place to another. Was inducted downtown, was sworn in, and immediately left that afternoon on a bus to go to Fort Leonard Wood for basic training. And of course, when we got there, it was just line after line after line of things that we had to do. Clothes, we had to get our new uniforms and haircuts and all of that kind of thing in preparation for basic training.
Were you looking forward to the haircut?
I never had a buzz job before. So.
Okay. Do you remember boot camp / training?
Yeah, actually, I probably felt the best I've ever felt physically in my life when I came out of basic training. I believe it was 8 weeks, if I remember correctly, and had physical training every day and felt good. Actually gained weight during that period of time. The food at basic training was good, and plenty of it. I didn't enjoy my time as in KP necessarily, peeling potatoes for about 12 hours a day, but yeah,
Okay.
it was part of it.
How do you think you got through it?
Well, as I do with any part of my life, I depended on the Lord
Okay.
as my steadfast rock to depend on. I had family, of course, that was supportive, encouraging. It was a long period of time for my wife and I. Like I said, we had been married for 3 years, and during the next 3 years that I was in the Army, we were only together 5 months. So I spent basically 3 years out of our marriage gone, except for a 5-month period of time.
Okay. How did you stay in touch with your family?
Well, we didn't have texting or phones back then, so all communication was by letter. I probably wrote and received hundreds of letters over the 3-year period of time that I was in.
How often did you write back home?
Quite often, at least once a week, and most weeks 2-3 times a week.
What was the food like when you were in the Army?
Oh, I loved Army food. It was very good. No matter where we were, we seemed to have good chow, and depending on where we were, some was better than others, but I never had a bad meal while I was in there, really.
What was your favorite meal? Do you remember?
SOS.
What is that?
Well, it's a breakfast meal, and it was a slang term that was used for it. It was toast with gravy and meat mixed in with it, put on the toast, and they called it SOS. I won't go into details.
Was there something special that you did for good luck?
No, I'm not never thought about luck anytime,
Okay.
then or now.
How did people entertain themselves in the Army?
Oh, Many different ways. I was one who loved to take pictures and travel.
Okay.
And so any chance that I had to get away from the barracks area, compound area, then I did that. Such as in Korea, I spent a lot of time in Seoul because it was only about 15 miles from our compound. And there was a USO there that we could go to and use, stay at, and also there was a Christian serviceman's home that was missionary run, and we could go there. Spent Christmas there that year that I was there, and we could sleep there. They'd feed us and give us a place to sleep if we wanted. That was one of the main things that I did while I was in the service. For entertainment, as far as compound, you just learn to find things to do. I enjoyed music, so I bought a stereo and had it there in Korea. Actually, the reel-to-reel tapes is what we used back then. We didn't, cassette tapes were never heard of at that point.
Oh, wow.
Records and reel-to-reel tapes. And just talking with the guys and clowning around and things like that.
Did you pull any pranks while you were in the Army with the fellas?
Oh, I don't know about pranks too much, although I'm a pretty good prankster. The one thing that I do remember in particular was one time the mess sergeant was wanting some, me being in supply, I had access to a lot of different kinds of materials. And so he asked me about fatigue material. He wanted some OD fatigue material to have some custom-made uniforms made out of. And so I got him some fatigue material under the condition that he got me some peanut butter, because peanut butter was just not, didn't seem to be available. Well, I wound up with a couple of 3-pound cans of peanut butter. And of course, once you open that can, you don't have a way of storing it too well. And so the barracks we had a peanut butter party. Everybody had peanut butter that day. So.
Interesting. Where did you travel while you were in the service?
Well, I was stationed in 3 locations, one in Korea for 13 months, back to the States for 5 months up around the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area with Nike Herc missiles. And then they sent me to Germany for my last 11 months as a radio repair specialist, which was not my MOS. I was in supply, and they sent me over there as a radio repair specialist, and I had no idea what I was going to do. And while I was there, I had, well, back up and give you a little bit of the history of Germany, why I was there, what I wound up doing. When I was processing through New Jersey, Fort Dix, New Jersey, there was a small sign posted with a thumbtack that said, anyone interested in singing or rifle shooting, let this person know. And so I asked about it. Volunteering in the Army, you never know what you're going to wind up with, but I asked about it. And they said they're looking for people for the rifle team, competition rifle team, and they were also looking for people to sing in the 7th Army Chorus in Germany. And I said, well, what do you have to do to be in that? And said, well, when you get there, you'll have to get permission from your officer in charge to go to Heidelberg and audition for them. So as I went to Germany, I happened to process through Heidelberg. And while I was there at 4 o'clock in the morning, at 7 a.m., I was at the front door of the office where the chorus was located, auditioned, and they accepted me into the chorus, and they cut new orders on me. And instead of being a radio repair specialist, which I knew nothing about, I spent my last 11 months in the Army singing with the 7th Army Chorus in Germany. And we traveled all over Germany and Belgium, the corner of Austria, and I went into France while I was there just on my own. So I had an opportunity to travel quite a bit. Went to East Germany, to Berlin, and as a serviceman, it was an occupied city, and so we could, in uniform, walk into East Germany without them any kind of control over us. because it was a occupied city. And so we would go over there on 2 different occasions into East Berlin, and that was quite an experience.
Okay. What did you do when you were in Korea?
I was with a Hawk unit, Battery D Hawk unit in Korea, and each day we would travel from our admin area up to our tax site, and I was in charge of the supply wagon, which was what we called a deuce and a half, 2.5 ton box truck with all of the parts that we needed for our radar units and generators. And I was in charge of keeping it supplied and replenish it, DX it, exchange it. When we had a bad item, we would send it in and get a new one to replace it. It was not my job, but I didn't have anyone to do the driving while I was there, so I wound up driving 20,000 miles while I was in Korea over dirt roads.
Oh, wow.
They didn't have much paved roads except in towns, so most of it was dirt roads. Also had the opportunity, we found out since the dirt roads were so bad, what we called the brain of the missile was getting damaged with dust on its way back up to the tax site after repairs, and so we started flying them in and out by helicopter, and I had opportunity to travel back and forth with the head to exchange it and bring another one back to the tax site. But that was my job. Most of the guys there spent 24 hours on, 24 hours off. They'd go up for 24 hours, and the next morning they would come down and a new crew would go up and replace them. It was manned 24 hours a day. We were overlooking the DMZ into North Korea, and we were at the highest tax site in that area of about 2,000 to 2,500 feet, and you could actually see over into North Korea from there.
What was your responsibilities when you went into the States after you left Korea?
It was in missile repair parts again, but it wasn't Hawk missile. I was stationed in Pennsylvania near Pittsburgh that had Nike Herc missiles, a much larger missile in the ground, silo type of missile, which I think are obsolete at this time.
Okay. Do you recall your last day in the service?
My last day? It was kind of a blur, but it was coming home from Germany, processed out through Fort Dix, New Jersey, and flew back to St. Louis as quick as I could get here. My wife was pregnant with our first son and was due to have David within a week, and it was a week to the day from the day I got out of the service that David was born.
Okay. What did you do in the days after you came back home from the service?
Well,
what was the first thing that you wanted to do when you got back to St. Louis?
Well, I was married, so naturally the first thing I wanted to do was go home and be with my wife.
Right.
But after that was just seeing friends and going back to church and getting reacquainted with the people that I had known for years, and just relaxing and kind of getting back into the swing of things. Of course, my job was held for me. That was required by the government at that time. They had to give you your job back if you were drafted into the service, which I was, even though I enlisted later. So my job was there. Went back to work the very first week that I was home. I actually didn't have any time off in between.
Okay, what was your job before you went into the service?
I did printing.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And after you came back, how long did you stay in with that printing company?
Well, I worked for Stixbury and Fuller, a department store, doing the printing for the store, advertising signs and that kind of thing. And I stayed there until 1974. Just 3 years, 3.5 years, something like that, after I came back from the service, before I went to work driving a bus and eventually being a train engineer on Metrolink.
Okay. And did you have to have any additional education to drive Metrolink bus?
Well,
or the
yeah,
engineer
I mean,
on the bus, and was it supported by GI Bill?
No, it was not supported by GI Bill, and it wasn't any kind of schooling as such. We did have to go through a training period of several weeks before being released to drive on our own. And then same thing with the trains. When they started up Metrolink, we went over and did, I believe it was, I want to say it was 6 or 8 weeks of training on the trains before we went into normal service, passenger service.
Okay. Did you remember any friendships that you made that would stick out in your mind?
Well, there's one fellow that I met when I was in Germany that I still have contact with today. In fact, he lives just across the river over here in Illinois, and sang in the 7th Army Chorus with him, and went over to Lebanon, Illinois for Christmas caroling on Thanksgiving weekend back a few years ago. And I saw a little short guy that was singing the bass part in this group, and I kept thinking, I know this guy. And sure enough, it was a fellow by the name of Richard, or Dick as we called him, that I had been in the chorus with. He was the bass leader for the chorus.
Okay. Do you do anything now that helped you when you were in the Army that you do now from different things? Like, do you sing anywhere? Do you do anything that you've learned from the Army?
Well, I don't know that I anything specific that I really learned. I was singing before I ever went in the service. In fact, I had sung in choir since I was like 13 years old. So I had some music background before I went in the service, led music for a couple of years at our church. So that didn't come from the service.
Okay.
But no, not really. I think ironing shirts, I learned to iron shirts while I was in there.
And do you sing anywhere now?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I've always been in choir. There's probably only been maybe a year since I was 13 years old that I haven't sung in choir of some kind.
Okay.
Sang with the chorus down at the college back a few years ago for the Easter section of the Messiah.
Okay. Do you belong to any military organizations right now?
No.
Okay.
No.
What is your best experience that you had in the military?
Oh, without a doubt, it was the 11 months that I sang in the 7th Army Chorus because we had opportunity to travel all over Germany and Belgium. We did a Christmas tour to the troops. We did what we called the church tour with a man by the name of Wim van de Pan, who is the organist for Notre Dame Church in Paris, France. He traveled with us, and so we had an organ concert every day for about 10 days, which we loved. We loved the beautiful organ music in these cathedrals that we would go to, and that was a great experience. The travel to small towns, getting to meet people, going to East Berlin was quite an experience. And we traveled by train at nighttime only to go through East Germany to get to Berlin from West Germany. We had our shades down on the train, could not raise the shades or look out in any way during the night. The East German guards had to come through and check our identifications and so forth on the train. But once we got to Berlin, then it was a whole different ball game. You know, we were out and be able to go where we wanted to go, including into East Berlin.
Okay. What do you think would be your worst experience in the military?
Oh, I think the separation. It was kind of like taking my marriage and clipping it on 2 ends and pulling out 3 years. 13 months in Korea without seeing any of my family was a long time. And then I came home and thought we would be here for longer than 5 months. But I was here for 5 months. We were together for 5 months in Pennsylvania, and they sent me to Germany. So
Yeah.
it's just the way it was.
Would you, looking back, would you have went and did it all over again? Would you have, re-enlisted in the Army and
Well, I think so. I was drafted originally, but then
Right.
enlisted. But I felt that I needed to serve my country in some way, and I'm proud that I did.
Okay.
I did not go to Vietnam, which doesn't hurt my feelings any, but if I had been called to go, I would have gone.
Okay.
It just worked out, and as far as I said earlier, as far as I'm concerned, it was God's hand on me, protecting me, putting me where He wanted me to be, and having the opportunities that He provided for me. I enjoyed it.
Is there anything else that you would like to add to this interview?
Not in particular. I have a lot of pictures that I've used or that I've taken over the years while I was in there. Some of them I have posted on my Facebook page, and people get a big laugh out of seeing me what I looked like back in the 60s. But other than that, no.
Okay. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.